Yeah, that's right. It's out the 3993.9, your number one choice for that hip hop and R&B. It's May. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I got my special guest with me, Dr. Garrick Beauliere, aka Dr. G. Dr. G, what's good, man?
How you doing, man? I'm doing good, man. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. Thank you for inviting me over.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Appreciate you coming on and everything, being with us. Long time coming for sure. You know,
Right.
we talked about this a while ago, and it's good that we're doing this particular month where it matters so much to so many different people. And I love what you're doing, by the way. You know, from every time I see you doing something new, especially in the mental health space. So definitely appreciate you coming on, and just it's good seeing what you do. Now, for anybody who doesn't know Dr. G, Dr. Garrick, and what you do, let the people know, who Dr. G is and what you do.
Yeah. So, hey, everybody. My name is Dr. Garrick Beauliere. I'm born and raised in Jersey, currently living in Baltimore. I have my doctorate in clinical psychology. I graduated with my doctorate back in 2022. I finished my postdoc at the Baltimore VA. I'm also the current president of the DC chapter of the Association of Black Psychologists. And I'm also the founder of my own mental health organization, Psych Me Out. You can also follow us on Instagram, Psych PSYCHME.OUT. Psych Me Out. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. I live in Baltimore right now, and I just do all things mental health. I'm really passionate about the Black community. I'm really passionate about helping people that look like me and really normalizing Black people, but also Black men in particular, to go to therapy and get their mental health on.
Definitely is important for Black men to be in therapy. And to talk about that, we didn't talk about the Bros, of course. Roots of the Bros, Incorporated, Sapase as well. Sapase.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Nabule. And just looking at it, how important is Black mental health, like in your opinion?
It's extremely important. At the end of the day, mental health, everybody has mental health, but not everybody talks about mental health, right? So I think the importance of Black mental health in particular is to talk about it. Like it's a lot of things going on in our community that's mental health related, and we're not really privy to that knowledge because we tend to either ignore it or not acknowledge it or blame it on to something else. I talk a lot about, because I have a lot of people that are spiritual and faith-based, and by all means, that's fine. Believe in who you want to believe in and practice whatever faith you want to practice, but that doesn't mean you have to deter yourself from, seeing a therapist or see a professional when it comes to mental health. I always talk about you can do both. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to choose one or the other. Like, when you're trying to get in shape, you go into the gym. You're not going to your pastor, right? So you can go stuff for your physical health, you go stuff for your spiritual health, and you go stuff for your mental health. And there's professionals and there's people that are trained in these respective areas. So just trust that person in that respective area, right? So you go into your trainer when you're trying to lose some weight, when you're trying to get some muscle. You're not going to your pastor or priest or whoever, when you're trying to get back in shape. So just trusting that trained professional in their respective practice to do what they need to do to make sure you're good.
That's right. Definitely. And, talk a little bit more about that. You said the physical, the spiritual, and of course the mental, right? So, faith without work is dead. So like you can have all the faith you want, but if you're not going to the gym, you're not going to get that six pack. You're not going to get that muscle. Same thing goes with your mind, which is one of the biggest muscles we have. I mean, it's not really a muscle, but it's a muscle, right? So just talk about that, a little bit more, like how important is it to just focus on all three? Because like me, I've been in the gym a little bit lately. I've been drinking water, minding my own business. Yeah, there you go. So it's one of those things. Like I've been it's therapeutic to go to the gym for me. It's therapeutic. I could decompress. Being a former athlete, compartmentalize things that are going on in your life. Work. School or kids or things like that. I've been able to compartmentalize it based off the former athlete. But like you said, it's big to talk about it. So just how important all three are just in just daily life in general.
Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, it's all connected, right? Like it's all interconnected on how we navigate and how we go about our daily lives, right? If your mind isn't right, your body may not be working right. And if your body not be working right, how you navigate, through the ins and outs of your daily work isn't going to be happening, right? And if your body is not physically right, you may not even have the energy to even practice your faith. You might not even have the energy to do what you got to do at work, and So it's all really interconnected. And I feel like sometimes people try to separate it and make it independent when it's actually all interrelated. You know what I'm saying? Something I talk about in psychology a lot is the CBT triangle. It's the cognitive behavioral therapy triangle, in the sense that your mind, feeling, your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all interconnected. How you think affects how you feel affects how you act, how you feel can affect how you think, and how you think can affect how you act can affect how you feel, and how you feel, like it's all interconnected, right? So being aware that the things that you do, there's a domino effect, and the whole point of therapy is really to raise that awareness, to recognize, oh wow, what I'm doing right now, this is, maybe I'm feeling this way because I'm having these thoughts, and maybe I'm having these thoughts because I did this action, or maybe I'm thinking this way because I'm feeling this way, right? So if you look outside that box and look at your mental health, maybe you're not, hitting that PR at the gym because your mind isn't straight, right? Because sometimes we look at the gym as therapeutic, but it's not therapy. And I feel like a lot of people try to use these different extracurricular activities as a replacement for therapy, when in reality it's not therapy at all. It's just therapeutic.
Man, that's a word. That's a word for sure. And going back to the gym, you got to have that mind muscle connection. Hey, I could do another rep, I could do this and that, but it's therapeutic. You're right, but it's not quite therapy, especially in the Black community, where we need the therapy generation wise. And just talk about that. Being a Haitian American yourself, I grew up in Miami around a lot of Haitian Americans and just Black people in general. Talk about that generational wise in the Black community. Like, why is it that we don't really talk about mental health the way we should? I mean, and we're getting to it now. We're making up for it now, I feel. But why is it we haven't talked about it? Because there's so many traumas that are happening going back to before our parents were born and before our grandparents, So, like, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned trauma, because in my opinion, I feel like that plays a big part as to why there's a huge discrepancy when it comes to the lack of mental health in our communities with other communities, right? So just like outside of mental health aside, let's just talk about doctors, right?
Okay.
Way back when, doctors were not nice to Black people. If anything, Black people were the test dummies, the lab rats to these doctors. I forgot his name, but the father of OBGYN experimented on pregnant Black women. So the reason why, this man has we have this knowledge about, maternal health and things like that, was because this man was practicing on pregnant Black slaves, right? So when it comes to just from a mental health perspective, there was a mental health disorder called drapetomania, and mental health physicians would diagnose Black slaves with drapetomania, which basically was a mental illness for wanting to run away from slavery. So you were mentally ill because you didn't want to be a slave. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about the Tuskegee experiment, right? So, like, historically, these people in these professions, these experts, these professionals, abuse their power for the sake of knowledge, for the sake of, whatever. And that generationally affects us, because no, you're not going to go to the doctor because my great grandmother happened to her and I don't trust them. You know what I'm saying? And then even in the medical field, even in the mental health field, there's discrimination, right? There's a lot of misdiagnosis, right? There's a whole, like, it's a fact that Black mothers are dying at a higher rate than white mothers, right? So that's why we're noticing a lot of people trying to do births like at the house.
Like a doula, like
yeah,
that.
Exactly, right? So like it's definitely a shift when it comes to this. And there's even a term called cultural paranoia, right? It's not the same as paranoia where you're just afraid somebody's going to come and get you, but it's that paranoia due to the cultural impact of discrimination and racism that affected your community, and you have trust issues towards that profession or that person in that profession. So when we really so when we really talk about Black people, really not being, trusting the mental health, Black people not going to the doctors, every year, what I'm saying, all these things that we should be doing, but it's really unfortunate because of the historical trauma that we faced. But fortunately, I think what changes is having more people that look like us in these positions of power, in these positions, in, you know, getting educated to really have that cultural approach when it comes to approaching that person, when it comes, whether it's, you know, physically, mentally, spiritually, etc.
Right. And then talk about that too, because you said, you know, comfortability, right? Being used to something like that. That's real key when it comes to access to mental health. Like, I'm going to be more willing to talk to someone who looks like me, who has my same experiences, my same traumas, things like that. And then being yourself, you know, having that ID and being a doctor, you know, having tattoos, brands,
Exactly.
like that. Like, talk about how much that helps you relate to those who you might be caring for and help.
It does a lot, because it really normalizes the experience of what it is to be a professional, and letting people know that I'm just like you in a sense, right? Like, I'm not any better than you. I'm not, you know, yes, I'm more educated and this is why you're here, but, you know, I'm just a regular guy just like you. And I think that also takes away from, you know, sometimes, you know, and I try to normalize being nervous, and also wanting how much you want to share when you're in the therapy room, right? I just like, listen, man, we don't have to go really go into your deepest, darkest traumas and things right now. Let's just get to know each other. Let's build that rapport, because a lot of people tend to just want to go straight into the nitty gritty dark stuff, but they don't even know you. And I think sometimes people just got to take a step back to really just get to know that person and build that relationship, build that rapport. And going back to what you mentioned about, you know, just being Haitian, right? Like, being being from the Caribbeans in general, you know, we tend to not really, there's a lot of generational trauma that comes to that, because we minimize, you know, what it is in probably in even other cultures. We minimize on what it means to be a man, right? What it means to seek help, what it means to just to deal with it. You know, I've dealt with worse. You know, we always hear from my parents, oh man, this is nothing, man. You didn't, you know, even with the buzz, you know, this is nothing, man. Back in the 90s, back in the 80s, man, it was crazier, right? You know, so and it gets to that extent where you really minimize their experience, and that affects their mental health. And you do that continually, that now it becomes perpetuated to the next generation, and then the next generation, and next thing you know, you have people crying like, why are they not opening up to me, man? Because when I tried to, you started talking smack.
Yeah, you criticized. Yeah, you talked a lot about it. Man, that's real deep, and you know, and talk about that too as well, because we didn't highlight that, but we did play the video. Being the BET and McDonald's, you know, that positivity, that Black and positively change leader. Talk about the change that you want to influence on others and help others with because of those experiences you've experienced, and you know, just things that you've been through.
Yeah, that was really dope, man. I was one of 10 people selected nationwide for the work I've done in the community. Like I said, like at the time, I was vice president of the DC chapter of the Association of Black Psychologists. Now I am the president. You know, back then my organization was just an IG page, and thanks to the exposure I gotten from being on a commercial with Keke Palmer, being at the BET Awards, speaking, having some time at Revolt, being interviewed by people at Revolt, you know, it expanded my brand, and because of that, I was able to turn this Instagram page into a whole organization, right? So now we're actually in the process of becoming a nonprofit by the fall, you know. So it's really dope to see how explosive, this experience was. And honestly, I didn't even know this kind of thing existed. My friend hit me, and she was like, yeah, I think you should apply. You know, I just do work in the community just to do work, you know, like it was like I didn't do it for like no incentive or anything like that. Right. And then, you know, I just wrote about and talked about the stuff I did, and they're like, yo, that's dope. We want to really highlight this on a huge platform on this campaign. And that's what they did. And it was a huge experience. They gave us, you know, I spoke at Afrotech, and they surprised each of us with another $10,000 check, you know, last November. Yeah, man, just to continue doing the work. Like it was a really beautiful, humbling experience. And so many people were reaching out to me and telling me like how I inspire them to go to therapy. I even got my dad. He's also the brother as well. So I'm a legacy, root to the legacies. I actually got my dad to start therapy as well last year. So that was a really huge moment for me, especially, you know, like fun fact, I've never seen my dad cry, like ever. Like
but that's
I turned 30 in October. I've never seen this man cry. You know, so that in itself can show you the type of man he is. You know, also being the Bruss, he founded that whole chapter. He charted a chapter, you know, as an immigrant. You know what I'm saying? So in the 80s, you know what I'm saying, just to add more emphasis to the type of man he is, you know, really real well respected in Jersey. And you know, even talking to him, he understood, like, yeah, man, you know what, I should speak to somebody. You know, so that was a really huge personal accomplishment for me, to not just influence, you know, people that I may not know, but also influence, you know, somebody that I look up to, somebody that made a huge impact on my identity as a man.
Right, man. Root to the brothers, and shout out to your dad, man. My grandfather was Omega Man, and he taught me so much. And like I said, I want to say a lot of that influence comes from, of course, being a man of Omega, but at the same time, just being a man in general, and sometimes knowing those things that you need to do to help others, and always giving back to others. We are facing what other men have met, and exactly. in this case, you know, we can actually give back to those young men that are coming up and things like that. So, and speaking of that, let's talk about Psych Me Out, right? You got your website right here, Psych Me Out. I know you guys have been this month talking about no bad energy. You know, talking about right now. There you go. Matter of fact, see, like I got my Palo Santo today. I got my. I like that. I got to say I do that. But talk about, you know, those tips that you are giving to people on a daily or weekly in this particular month, and even past this month.
Yeah, so right now for the whole month of May, my organization Psych Me Out, again, PSYCHME.OUT on Instagram. We collabed with a clothing brand called Cologne Brands, and every Monday for the month of May, we're dropping, you know, mental health tips and mental health facts, you know, just different topics each week. So the first week of May, we did setting healthy boundaries. Second week, we did reframing negativity. This week, we did detox your mind and body. And I'll keep next week a surprise, you know, so just make sure you follow the page to find out for more. And what's really dope is that, you know, with the clothing brand, Cologne Brands, you know, it's a really dope organization, and they have a whole entire no bad energy, you know, collection. Okay. And what they're going to do with Psych Me Out is that any sales they get from their no bad energy collection for the month of May, they're going to donate 50% of each sale to my organization.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're really, appreciate it, dog. Appreciate it. So we're really trying to push people, you know, to buy these shirts. They got hoodies and all that stuff too, really just to go in that campaign on their website to, you know, and go and support. So not only you're supporting the clothing brand, but you're also supporting a mental health organization, trying to do good things, you know, for the community.
Yeah, that's definitely big. And like I said, those tips are real good. And one of the tips that you guys gave earlier this month that I like, I believe it was like, it's not selfish, it's self first or something like that. I believe it was self first, not self. You know, and that's big, because sometimes you can get pulled as men. You say you never seen your father cry. You know, as men, sometimes we can get pulled in multiple directions. You don't have time to cry. You might not have to. And sometimes you might need to take yourself first, sit down, relax, get yourself together, and move on, and then help others. Or sometimes it's okay to say no. Like, hey, I can't do it. I'm not doing it. You know, because my mental health is better than me getting tugged and pulled another way. So I definitely like those tips. And I will be paying attention this Monday coming up to see that particular tip that you guys got this week coming up. But not bad. So as far as mental health, you know, is there anything else that people should be looking for in the rest of the months of the year? Just anything from Psych Me Out in general, just anything to be looking out for, or anything they should be doing if someone's on this journey right now and they haven't really seeked out help or therapist or therapy. What's something that they can do as we get ready to close out this year? We're getting on the back end of the year. What's something that they could do to kind of help themselves out this particular year?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is to really, first, psychmeout.org, we actually have like tips and questions that you can ask your therapist, because I think people don't even know, like, when they get to therapy, like, what do they even do, right? You know, and I also think when people are going on this mental health journey, right, I definitely want to tell people there's a lot of therapists, but not every therapist is right for you. There's a lot of good therapists, but not every therapist is good for you, right? Like, I feel like I'm a great therapist, but I may not be a great therapist for Joe Schmo down the street, right? But I might be the perfect therapist for John Doe, right? And I really like to tell people it's kind of like trying on a new shoe or driving a car. You want to test drive it, right? You want to get a feel. Again, building that relationship. Do you feel the good vibe? You know, trust your gut, because at the end of the day, if you don't feel comfortable in sharing the space with this person, it may not be a good fit, may not be a good vibe. You know, that's why it's important to finding people that look like you, finding people that share the same identity, whether it's sexual orientation, same faith, gender, race, what age, So having, shared identities can definitely make you feel a little bit more comfortable. But understand, just because one therapist didn't work out for you doesn't mean therapy doesn't work out for you. You just have to try a different shoe, try a different car, and there's going to be a right fit for you. So I definitely want to tell people, I talk to different people here and there, and like, yeah, man, I tried therapy, it wasn't good for me. I'm like, nah, man, the therapist just didn't click with you, and that's fine too. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, and that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the therapist. Sometimes people just don't match, and that is completely normal. And I definitely want to really normalize that experience. I know people that went through cycles of therapists before they found their perfect match, and now they're great. Also, I like to mention, like, you don't need to be in a crisis to be in therapy. I feel like sometimes people just like to wait until they hit rock bottom to just, all right, yeah, and let me see a therapist. No, man, sometimes being in therapy can help before you get hit. It can prevent you from hitting rock bottom.
Sure.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's being proactive instead of reactive, just like seeing a doctor, going and get your annual physical. You may find something that could have led to something worse, but since you got that annual, now you can work on preventing that issue from getting worse. And it's just like therapy. Maybe you are going through something, but you don't even realize it. Maybe
trauma's a big that could add on to a lot of stuff. Hey, why do I do this? Why do I think this way? Because it could have been something that happened.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't have to be something so severe like you're suicidal, or like you're just like, you don't know what you're going. You're having some sort of existential crisis. Like, it can, at the end of the day, we are all going through something. And I also want to normalize it's okay to not be okay. I feel like we're in this really proactive positivity, and sometimes I don't, people label it as toxic positivity. Like, just be happy, just keep grinding. You want to make moves, you're trying to flex on social media, and it's like, bro, like, sometimes you're just not doing well, and that's okay.
True. And talking about that, you did say social media, right? Just talk about, like, how do therapists look at social media? Because a lot of people look at social media and get depressed. A lot of people look at social media and it's like, dang, I'm not where I need to be. I'm not where I want to be. At one point there, social media wasn't even a thing, but now that it is a thing and you're constantly seeing things like that, like, what's your suggestion to those who might get depressed after looking at someone that's their age or younger than them doing better than them, or it looks like they're doing better than them just because of pictures, videos, and such and such?
Yeah, and that's why for this week's, as far as like mental health stuff, we have like detox your mind and body, right? So something as simple as limiting your social media use, right? There's a reason why you're feeling sad after you see these pictures, right? Like, there's a reason why. Like, there's even science to prove that sometimes people feel more sad because they didn't receive X amount of likes, and it's like, dang, are you posting because you want to show people what you're doing, or you're posting because you want to hit a certain level of likes or interactions, to feel like you're worthy, right? So
they start letting people like turn off likes and comments.
Mm-hmm. And it's really, and then sometimes you gotta take a step back, like, realize, like, where's your self-worth, where's your self-confidence, right? And where are you putting it? Is it more internally, intrinsically in yourself, or do you need that external validation? And if you do, ask yourself why. And explore and unwrap those reasons, because, at the end of the day, social media is going to be here to stay. And unfortunately, the only way to not get sucked in is to step out, take a break. You know what? I was on this. All right. Let me touch some grass. Let me be outside, because as social media is not real. There's people flexing, right? Comparing you comparing yourself to somebody, and what they're flexing about doesn't even exist. It's not even real.
Bro, I see.
I got friends that are fitness models and things like that, and when they tell me about what other fitness people do on IG, like, they're photoshopping. There's people, like regular people like me and you, comparing their bodies to these Photoshop pictures, and it's like you're comparing to yourself to something that's not even real, that's not even true, and now you're feeling more sad because you can't even obtain this body, which is not even realistic.
Right.
And you see how that cycle keeps going.
The hamster in the wheel, you know. Yeah.
Exactly. So like you're making yourself more sad, more depressed because you're chasing something that's not even attainable. So sometimes you gotta take a step back, acknowledge the good, give yourself grace, you know, and just realize it's not real. It's not real, and everybody has their time to shine. You know, I have a tattoo on my leg. It's like a yin and a yang.
Okay.
And within the yin and the yang, it's like a sun and the moon, right? And it's like extra like details and stuff.
Right.
But it's a reminder to myself is that, you know, everybody, you know, my time to shine will happen, but I'm not always going to shine, right? So like in the daytime, the moon doesn't shine.
Right.
But that doesn't mean the moon's not going to shine ever, because when it's nighttime, the moon shines and the sun's not shining. And I feel like sometimes people just got to realize sometimes you're the sun and it's nighttime right now. And it doesn't mean you're never going to shine. It doesn't mean you're never going to be successful. It's just not your time yet. And what gets you to keep going is perseverance, right? Being consistent, you know what I'm saying? And continuing to push forward despite not seeing the results, because at the end of the day, you know, the day is going to end, but you just got to be consistent, because you're going to get to where you got to be, but you got to be consistent. And that consistency relies on discipline.
Right. Discipline for sure. And like you said, faith, substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. Sometimes you got to be able to have that faith despite what you think it might be or what is happening right now, because it never know what's around the corner for sure. And, you know, as we get ready to close for sure, talk about, you know, what Psych Me Out is doing for like Black females and males specifically coming up for the rest of the month, whether it's tips, et cetera, like anything in particular that's coming up that you want to shout out or highlight?
Yeah. So first and foremost, like Psych Me Out, we are based in New Jersey. However, since I live in Baltimore, we also are in the DMV area as well. So Maryland, Virginia, DC. My co-founder, Dr. Alexis Ferguson, she teaches in New York. So we're in the tri-state area. We're in the DMV area. So if you're around, show love, follow the page. We actually had our first inaugural event earlier this month. It was Uni for Wellness, and we had different vendors around the community, you know, showing what they have. We had yoga, we had, you know, exercise, we had we had a few politicians, police officers, just to increase that community engagement and just to bring the community together. And it was a really great turnout. And we're going to try to make this an annual thing. And we gotten so much good feedback from our Unity for Wellness event that in June 8th, we're actually going to have another yoga event, and we're trying to incorporate more of a physical health kind of aspect to what we're doing as far as in-person events. Because again, we're doing a lot of things via social media, you know, sharing all things mental health, talking about depression, talking about suicide, talking about anxiety, talking about where to find a therapist, talking about the history of Black psychology. But we also want to have more in-person engagement. So that's what we're doing now. And as far as like in the future, we definitely have a lot more planned events as far as in person. Me being the president of DC Sci, we're collaborating with my chapter to do stuff in the DC community, in the VA community, in the Maryland community as well. So just stay tuned, but continue to support the No Bad Energy and go to colognebrands.com. I see with the sage.
Not bad at all. Look. Not bad. And that's one thing I forgot to ask, you know, in the Black community, do you feel that with certain doctors not looking like us, certain doctors misdiagnosing us, like especially, you know, Black males, ADD and ADHD, like things like that, do you feel like misdiagnosis has come from a lot of doctors not looking like us, or is just people just kind of going through
It's definitely, I believe it's definitely a cultural competence piece when it comes to these misdiagnoses, you know what I'm saying? Even, and not just, you know, ADHD, but even like some of these other behavioral disorders, like oh my gosh, like chronic disorder, oppositional defiant disorder. You know, you got these kids behaviorally that may be acting up, and they just want to label, because the thing is with chronic disorder, you know, that can lead into antisocial personality disorder, right? Mm-hmm. So these kinds of disorders have a label, and these labels follow you. But what people don't realize is that some of these behaviors can be linked to something much deeper. Maybe their acting out is because they're sad. And as you know, or as people may not know, sadness is a symptom of depression, right? But what people don't know, how is sadness, you know, displayed? Typically, you know, and stereotypically, right, women internalize the sadness and, you know, keep it inside, you know, cry, be a little bit more emotional, right? Stereotypically, right? However, what males do, we externalize it. So we're more aggressive, we're more angry. You know, again, going back to the stereotype of like, we can't show weakness. So a lot of these people that are angry are actually really sad or really depressed. You know, when you look at, you know, in these inner city communities, you know, all these guys that are really angry and, you know, hard, they're really sad. Sadness, anger, two sides of the same coin. The same reason you could be angry can be the same exact reason why you're sad. It's just all about how you display that energy. And because, you know, unfortunately, you know, society deems like showing feelings and emotion as weakness, we can't show that sadness. So we got to be angry, we got to be hard, we got to act out to show that we're tough. And as a result, sometimes that could lead to the misdiagnosis as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's huge. If I think about just growing up, you know, certain people I've encountered, certain times that I was angry, you know, sometimes it happens, you know, and you might project it differently, but you might deep down be sad, and therefore you're acting out to kind of cover your sadness in a way, and that's crazy. That's a lot to unpack too, and especially in our community.
Yeah, man. When I was at the Baltimore VA, I had a 4-week men's anger management group. So for 4 weeks, I would get in. It was really beautiful because one of the groups I had like all black men, and we just talked about just like anger, just like as black men. They talked about it in the context of being black men and black male veterans, you know. And it was a really, really dope and powerful conversations because, you know, anger is such a complex emotion, but it's just an emotion. Right. Yeah. And people tend to label anger as this bad thing, and it's not. There's no such thing as bad emotions. Right. There may be bad behaviors that are tied to the emotion, but anger is just an emotion.
And looking at that too, just as black males, sometimes black males, we can't act out of anger because if we act out of anger, other things happen, especially if you happen to be 6'3", 275. I get mad. It might be a problem, you know, and therefore that leads to other different things. That could be a whole different situation. Yep. You know, nobody wants to be a hashtag because of things that happen.
Exactly.
You know, a black male that's mad. So it's man, that's a lot to unpack for sure. And definitely we're gonna be staying in tune with Psych Me Out and following it. We're gonna be posting everything. Definitely check the website out right there. Let the people know where they can find you at on all socials and everything else as well.
Yeah, man, you can follow me on Instagram at _itsg94. And again, you can follow my organization, Psych Me Out, at psychme.out.
Gotcha. I definitely got to get with you because I think I might have been misdiagnosed as like a sneakerhead disorder. Because man, I just keep buying shit. Yeah, I know, man. Every time I try and I say I'm gonna stop, I just keep buying. I don't know.
Yeah, man. Come to the office. We'll talk about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, it's out on 3993.9. Dr. G blessed us, came in up here talking to us about Black mental health. We got to get our mental health right, everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. Black, white, brown, doesn't matter. But definitely health is wealth. Mental health is definitely wealth. So we appreciate you being on it once again. And yeah.
Thanks for being on, man.
You already know what it is, man. It's Jay Fresh signing out on the 3993.9.